So, welcome to Rabbi Asher Meza. I am Ash Maíz. There's going to be some confusion there, I'm sure. This is our first time speaking face to face. I actually have a really interesting story about how your name first came up for me. Basically, I had contacted Rabbi Tovia Singer
Mm.
at a time when I was more interested for knowledge than interested in combating fake knowledge. And I interviewed him. But when I had first reached out to him, I said my name, and he goes, "Wait, Asher Meza?" I said, "No, I don't know who that is. Like, what are you talking about?" And he goes, "Okay, okay, okay, fine." And I was like, "All right." And then that was it until about, what is it, a week ago, that somebody watching my videos is like, "You definitely need to do an interview with Asher Meza." And I was like, "Oh, so that's a real person. I gotta go look this guy up."
Tovia Singer and I have a little bit of a history. I was the first person to convert his audio series from cassette to MP3. I don't think most people know that. This is the first time I've ever said this. It must have been the year 2000. And my friend Moshe Otero spent the Shabbos with him, and then he gave him a set of his Let's Get Biblical series on cassette, and I took it upon myself to convert it to MP3 and put it online. And he actually took those audios and put it on his website. So that's how I started off with him. And then I spoke to him a few times in the old city because I used to work for this guy named Jeff Sedell, and we used to contract him to speak at our student center. But yeah, go ahead.
No, that's really interesting that you actually have that history with him because we both,
Yeah.
I guess, came from like we've spoken to him, and I don't think we've either of us have had a negative experience with him per se, as far as like
No,
from what
right,
you're
yeah,
telling
yeah,
me. So, I
yeah.
mean, on a personal level, the only thing that I didn't like in my interaction with him was that every time that we finished talking about what he wanted to talk about, and then I started to ask questions about, okay, well, what about in Judaism? And that's I'm not talking about that. No, no, I gotta go.
He's a normal Orthodox Jew. There's nothing overly spectacular about him. The reason I say this is I think the counter-missionary movement as a whole is quite destructive. And it's essentially spearheaded by him, although he didn't really come up with a lot of these tactics. He followed after a rabbi called, or a teacher, I don't know if he was a rabbi. He wrote a book called The Jew and the Christian Missionary. I think that's the name of it. And this came out before Let's Get Biblical. And it's my major issue is when someone tries to destroy someone else's faith without giving them an alternative to the faith you're destroying, i.e., and like in his case, it would be Orthodox Judaism. You essentially end up making more atheists than noites and more Karaites than converts. And this is why virtually every former Christian out there who was heavily evangelical till they came across Tovia Singer had nowhere else to go once their faith was destroyed, because like he says over and over again, he's not here for Gentiles, although they're the ones who I'm pretty sure make up the bulk of his funding. He's just here to retrieve Jews from the church, and those numbers are quite minuscule. So it
So
seems
what
that
made me turned off by his attitude is that it became very evident um, that he is as much interested in converting Christians to Noahidism as he is in rescuing Jews from Christianity. And I saw in a video also recently where the guy says, "What about all these people they become atheists?" And he's like, I don't know of anyone that becomes atheist after they speak to me." And then at the end he says, "Yeah, there's lots of people, and like we hope to get them back." It's like you just said that there's nobody that becomes atheist because of you. And I think I think this is probably a good starting point here. Whatever else theology, metaphysics that might come up in the conversation, I think a good starting point is that it's clear that we both agree that the most destructive thing is secularism, and it's the fruits of that. Would that be correct in asserting?
Atheism, actually, I mean, one could be secular and still derive their values from the Torah, right? I mean, Israel, I
I
believe,
mean
was
secular in
chat.
the philosophical sense, not in the Jewish terminology of it. So I like atheism basically.
Okay, atheism, yes, absolutely.
So would that be the most destructive thing in your view?
Absolutely. Well, in certain cases, I would want some radical Islamists to become atheists.